This week on the Weekly Reid,
sex is an exchange of energy. I resonate with being omnisexual.
So you know a little bit about energy, it sounds like. So what would you say my energy is? Like, what vibes do I get along? Far too often we take things in life way too seriously. But also, far too often in life we don't take things seriously enough. This week's show is all about what makes us humans and why we do the things that we do. My guest Desanye is coming to talk about fears, sex, titles, and all the things that we attribute to making us human. And we're going to try to figure out why on this episode. That being said, it is my pleasure to welcome to you my next guest, Desanye. So thank you so much for being on my show.
Hi, Desanye.
Can you just introduce yourself and say why you're here?
So like I said, I'm Desanye, also known me Baby Bismuth, but I'm here to talk about sex and kind of in a way how it is everything.
Okay. And so why did you decide that you wanted to talk about that?
I feel like sex in general is misunderstood.
Okay.
And especially in today, like I feel like people don't understand that like right now, like us communicating, exchanging words, like that's a form of sex, and like how your friendships as well as your romantic relationships and your relationship with your family, you're still kind of engaging with sexual energy. And I feel like collectively we are all healing like toxic sexual energy, which is also our creative energy, where essentially, you know, not everyone is an artist, quote unquote, but like everyone's creative. Like everyone should have the freedom to write and express themselves. Everyone should have the freedom to feel support and to feel like intimacy and connection, which isn't always through like physical sex, or like it isn't always through a romantic partnership.
Right. Okay, so by sex with, you were talking about like your friends or your family, are you talking about intimacy? Is that what you mean? Like that component of sex that is intimacy?
So it's still sex, but it's kind of just understanding that it's not just like the physical like genitals actually engaging. Like,
okay.
If like even just sex is an exchange of energy. It is an interaction. Like even if you look up to the word intercourse, like it literally means a communication or dealings between like two people or two beings, whatever it is. And like I actually looked before I came here that the synonyms to that is communication,
okay,
relationships, association, interchange, and connection. So like it's kind of just understanding like sex is connection. It's like a vibe that you feel with a person, and just understanding that when that's why like I'm bringing up the sacral chakra, when we associate sex only being something that we have with a romantic person or being just like physical, we're limiting our own ability to feel free to express our sexual energy, which is the same as creative energy. And it's kind of like, for example, and this is me just observing people, there's people that literally say, oh, I want dick, or like I want pussy, but like are artists but can't create. And it's
right.
like if you have the energy technically to have physical sex with a person, you should also have the energy to create your art.
Right.
To, if you have a business, to put the energy and imaginative like focus into your business, or like whatever it is. Like everyone has a source of creative energy, and I feel like when we get stuck on just it being like one form or like one shape or one condition, we just restrict ourselves, especially like sacral, again, the sacral chakra, like that being the center of sexual energy is also the center of your freedom.
Okay.
And just to go back to you asking about intimacy, like I feel like when you have a distorted understanding of sex, it can also go back to your intimacy with your family. Like if you came up in a household where, you know, you weren't really taught to connect and talk with your family members and express your intimate emotions, or be able to have the space to even talk about sex in general, I feel like it definitely makes a distortion in your intimacy and distortion in your intimacy with your loved ones, whether it be family or romantic. And I feel like a lot of people, when they look at their partnerships, they see like, oh, all my insecurities that came up from when I was growing up are being thrown back into
right.
my face. So yeah, I just feel like if more people understand, and this relates to when I was talking about like labels and condition, like making sex and physical sex being the only type of sex that's in your mind, like you're putting condition on what that is. You're putting condition on your ability to connect with a person. You're putting condition on your ability to relate to a person, to understand a person deeper, where like a lot of people say like, oh, when I want to have sex, that's kind of my way of like showing a person like, oh, like I want to be intimate with you.
Right.
Where just again, like it's not the only way. And like if it is your only way, like I feel like it kind of can drain and take away from just like you being able to get up every day to feel full of life. Because again, like the sexual, that's like where it's called the hearth of health.
Okay.
So essentially, like if that, again, like it's really funny because sexual energy is life force, it's how you procreate. But
right.
if all of that is distorted or it's like toxic, or you aren't being able to allow that, again, freedom, allow that energy to be expressed in all shapes, all forms, all dimensions, it like just continues distorting. But
right. So do you think, just to clarify, do you think that there should or should not be an emphasis on sex
that's
in
a very
sex and
interesting
relationships?
question. It's like I want to say yes in the sense that,
Well,
like,
physical sex. Because
like it's still an interesting question. Sorry.
No, you're
I
fine.
want to say it necessarily doesn't need to be emphasized, because of course, like if you're with someone that you love very intensely, you're going to want to like merge with them. That's again, like sex is a merge. But I feel like having the conscious awareness of just like, oh, like all we doing every day is just having sex,
Right.
and kind of like asking yourself like, oh, like do I feel intimate enough with this person to be like to express like your traumas, to express your triggers, or like is this person intimate enough with you to express that back to, or like are y'all intimate with each other enough where it's not just about the physical sex, because that can also turn into a form of escape. It can turn into a form of just like avoidance from just the other ways that you can connect, relate with a person. But like I want to say it, just to go back to the emphasis, like it doesn't necessarily need an emphasis, but I don't want people to think that it doesn't matter.
Right.
Because like that's still a way of connecting with a person, and it's still a way of engaging and exchanging energy. It's just understanding that it's not the only way.
Right.
And it shouldn't be the only way.
Right. So a couple weeks ago, I had a conversation with one of, I don't even think we follow each other, but we were talking about whether or not everybody that you have sex with creates a soul tie. What do you think about that?
So I don't want to call it a soul tie.
That's the same thing I said. I just want to say that. That's the same exact thing I said, but.
Because yes, like when you have sex with a person, like you are exchanging energy. No matter if you aren't conscious of energy or you think that doesn't exist, like it happens. But I don't want to always say it's a tie. It's just people have to be aware of themselves enough to be like, okay, like do I have stagnant sexual energy? Like this is something that I've had to even like focus on personally, and where if you feel that you're fatigued a lot randomly, chronically, or you feel like you can't get up and go do yoga, or you can't just do the things that your body naturally should have the energy to do, like it is like kind of a time to assess yourself. Do I have stagnant energy? Do I have sexual ties with people that's pulling on my ability to live, my ability to feel life and to breathe life into myself? And like that's why I recently came to understand that like I understand why the word promiscuous, I think I'm saying it right.
Promiscuous.
It's
a hard word to say.
I understand why they kind of promote to not be that, because when you look up like and I'm very good in like literal words, I love what they actually mean, because it shows you like, okay, like are we using the words how we're supposed to use? But like that word literally means no discrimination to who you're having sexual energy with. And like this kind of phrasing, like, oh, like you don't want to really be that. Like you kind of want to be able to like, do I want to associate myself with these person's qualities? Like, is this a person I would want to be? And I feel like that's kind of how you can move away from soul ties, or like unintentionally creating a soul tie with a person. But like I don't feel like it's always that intense where it's like you have to do intense cord cutting. Like I feel like sometimes it's just okay, you just have stagnant energy from engaging with a person that you might have to just like ease out of your body a bit.
Right. So how did you become comfortable talking about these topics? I know for women it's considered quote unquote taboo. So I was really, I really love that you wanted to come and talk about it, period, because I don't know how many people would have been, down to. So I guess my question is like, how were you able to develop the ability to be so open and honest about how you feel about sex?
I feel like, and this relates to like the second topic I first sent you, how I resonate with being omnisexual, which
can you just explain what that means for anybody who's not?
So I'll say in layman terms, it's like my transcendent form of pansexuality, where I feel that I'm in a relationship with everything, and that's not just, you know, with people and beings in that sense. Like, it's also like plants, the earth, just the wind, and just the sky and the sun. And I feel like understanding for me, just like sex isn't just that physical like happening. Like, it's just literally like feeling an energy coming to you, and you feeling it and resonating with it, and then expressing your own energy back to what you're just with. So like looking at a flower is like having sex to me.
Okay.
Like, or just
so it
walking
gives you the
out.
same like euphoria. Is that what it is?
I don't want to necessarily say it's always the same euphoria, because I feel like there's definitely different heightened like potentiality. If that makes sense.
Yes, I understand.
But I would say I feel the connection. Like, I feel the exchange.
The oneness.
And especially like I feel like we don't just exchange through our sexual. It's just where our sense of relation starts. Where I actually was reading in an energy book, just it was talking about like karmic ties, just exchanging energy with people, and like also how to like help people with massage work. And it was explaining, you know, all of our relationships start in our sexual, but then as we grow, you also connect through your solar prelix, which you connect through your ambitions.
Okay.
You connect through your possessions, and that's when people move in together, or they start having shared accounts or whatever. And then it was like you also connect through your heart chakra, and you exchange there, and that's where you create unconditional love for the person, or like you start sharing like deeper intimate thoughts about yourself, and throw in just all the way
Wow,
up.
so it comes from like here up.
Yes.
Wow, I did not know that. So how did you learn all this stuff?
That I recently, like, I would say I always felt it. It's just finding resources that give like the actual wording. So it's actually a book that I got from a library in New York. I never returned it, but it's a practical book on energy healing and massage work.
Okay.
So it actually like just talks about the subtle energies in the body, and just of course like sexual energy, and explaining just you know, it's also creative energy, and it's energy that you use to support yourself, to feel support from others. And it started talking about how everything starts there for people, especially like in your childhood development. And then after that, that's where like you can connect to people in like your other chakra centers. And for me, when I read this, like, oh, this makes sense why there's some people you love very, very much through your heart, but you would never like share possessions with them.
Yeah.
Or like there's some people where you have a lot of possessions with, or relationships where you have a lot of possessions with, but like you guys don't share any of your truths, or like any of like your actual like purpose and passions, which is your throat. And I'm like, it kind of makes sense where like, wow, like you are exchanging energy, not just through like the traditional, and I don't want to say traditional because like I feel like our ancestors understood this very clearly, but traditional in these days, which is just like the physical sex.
Right. That's really interesting. I'm like learning so much. So you know a little bit about energy, it sounds like. So what would you say my energy is? Like, what vibes do I get off?
Okay, I see a lot in colors, but like currently you're like really, really green and purple with like a little bit of orange.
Okay.
But like, sorry,
that's okay.
But it's really pretty though, cause like I feel like for me this is why like I'm even attracted to these certain things, is like I naturally like see energy, where like I recently had to pick up that energy book just because like people were asking like, oh, like what do you see? I'm just like, I don't know what this means, guys, but like this is what I see. But I just know, I know purple is a very, very high frequency.
I was about to say, isn't that the highest? I'm not on your level, but I have looked a little into it, and I think violet is like the highest.
Yeah, it's like violet and ultraviolet. And it's actually funny you say that, because I recently learned, even though this like makes sense, but like colors like purple, violet, ultraviolet, indigo, blue, like those are higher frequencies, but they also move faster. And like colors like red, yellow, green, orange, like of course like the more physical related chakra colors are slower moving.
Okay.
Which I'm like, that kind of makes sense for like higher frequencies, like you are moving faster, and it is like, it feels like like whiplash sometimes when you like get downloads, and like when like you're grounding, like it's definitely those are the moments where like you feel the more like slow and kind of just like everything is moving. And it's nice, but like I wish the fast pacedness would come back again. But I feel like it's a good thing, and that's why I like seeing that mixture of colors, because it shows. I know green is growth, if that's related to anything right now.
That's great. That is great to hear.
And orange is like creative,
Okay.
and also like it was a very active orange.
That's so funny because I just sprayed myself with this healing mist. Like, it's like for the purpose of creation. So that's crazy. I can't talk. That's crazy that you were able to see that. And it's orange too. So.
Word.
Yeah.
Late blessings. Because, like, I recently also read, it's funny, I love this book. I should have brought it. But, I learned that, because orange is actually the color of the sacral chakra, so that's why also that energy is like creative energy. But I learned that teal is also a color for the sacral.
Oh, okay.
And when I was reading, like, oh, that kind of feels like that's more of like the receptive form of like creative energy, where like the orange, if you're feeling that, that's kind of like, oh, I'm up, I want to do things, I want to show people what I'm making, what I'm doing. Or like the teal could be like, okay, like, I just want to take in the things that I've made, or like I just kind of want to like reset myself. Like even like Erica Badu one time said that there's no like such thing as like creative block. It's just a time where you're like charging yourself back up to be able to like create again. And so I feel like
that
that's
makes me
kind
feel
of
good
like,
because I'm like known for my creative. I guess it's not a creative block, but that makes me feel really good.
Oh, nice. Kind of like feel like when you're full, it's like because you like put things in the hole, and then like when you have a thing and it's full, you're like, okay, I kind of want to share this to other people in the world or just the universe, whatever. You're like emptying the hole again, and it's like, even though the analogy of the hole is very like depressing for people, like I feel like if you look at it as that, it's just like, oh, you're just like refilling yourself and like giving it out again, like a plant. You know, you have to harvest a plant after it's ripe again, and then it looks kind of like sad for a bit, and like it doesn't have anything, and then it grows back. So I feel like remembering that too, just your creative process, which I relate to like very, very heavily, is really good. And it's funny you brought that up, because I feel like that relates to just like, again, just the topic being sex. Because like if you are like finding that your energy is leaking in certain ways, especially because people can unintentionally like take your energy, and I don't know where that's take, because I feel like we all do it in that way, especially like sexual energy is so, I want to say it's so sensitive.
Okay.
And if you relate this to just like the energy you feel when you want to make art, when you want to like, I know you model, like your stuff is really beautiful.
Oh,
like
thank you.
When you're modeling and that force that you feel inside yourself, and just kind of like just imagine if like that same energy, and you're kind of just like putting it into something, but like not even like creating the purpose. And I feel like that goes back to your emphasis. Like I feel like that's the issue when it comes to physical sex. People don't put a purpose into it.
Okay.
And like and the purpose could really just be like, oh, I really love you and I want to show you how much I love you. But there's people that don't even like that, like do that. There's people that literally say like, oh, I have sex with someone I don't love, and it's like, you don't even love them as a friend.
Yeah. Right.
As a person that's alive and breathing. And it's like kind of scary that like people don't realize how it's like, wow, like you're kind of showing how much like you want to connect and relate, but you aren't really like wanting to put in that extra step, that extra like weight, if that makes sense. That extra kind of like, okay, like I really want to be a person and show this person that I'm a person with them.
Right. So my next question to you is, do you think that couples can not have sex and still have a good relationship then?
Yes.
Okay.
Just because like I forget who said this, but they were making a statement that there's no such thing as like being abstinent. I think I'm saying the word right.
Abstinent, yeah.
In the sense of just like, you know, like you're always like, you could again like have sex with yourself. Like when you create, when you write, when you sing or dance or do any of those like very like freedom related things, when you move your body and just like not feel like I have to like hide how I look to even like do that. Like that's a form of sex, and where, you know, you don't have to like release the energy in that way. Because I feel like physical sex is like, excuse me, like the word, but it's like the climax of release. Like it's kind of the ultimate way of just like, oh, this energy's building up in me, I just want to like get it out.
Get it out,
and
like right now, yeah.
Yeah, and it's like that's perfectly fine, but I feel like when you're always doing that, especially if you've ever noticed in your own experience, other people just like feeling tired after sex, like technically like yes, there is sex where you can go to sleep, but like if you actually feel like exhausted or kind of just like, oh, like I don't want to go about and do my day anymore, like it kind of is like addressing like, oh, like did we just do this to kind of just waste our sexual energy, or like did we do it to like amplify it, to make us like, all right, now let's go make art together. Like I feel like sorry, I'm going off topic. It's just like even like couples that are artists. Like I feel like it's very strange if you are dating someone that also creates, but you have nothing together that's collaborative, but you are always having sex together. And I feel like that's like kind of strange in the sense of like, oh, like if you're engaged this much with a person and with your creative sexual energy, like you should also be having that manifest in different ways. And that's why like I would say the most powerful couples are the ones where you see making art together, or like you see intertwining with their businesses together in some way or fashion, or like you see like not just kind of being individual all the time, but you see them individuals, but individuals also together, and like seeing that energy constantly like connect through different aspects and different parts of their lives.
Right. So in terms of couples, why do you think that tends to fade for some people? Or do you think that that's something that goes away? Because we're talking about connection. And I know from my own personal experience that connections can run very deep, and regardless of whether a situation is over, the connection might still be there.
I feel like if you're someone that puts extreme emphasis on it, it can feel like that you're losing connection. Because sometimes I definitely resonate with like you're not always going to want to have physical sex, like even just on like how me personally as well, like I feel like if I'm in a more depressive state, like I don't really feel called to have sex. But there's people that when they are in more depressive states, that's
the first thing they want to do.
Yeah, and it's like it's not necessarily, I don't want to say it's necessarily a bad thing, but it's more so just like being aware and conscious of like, why are you trying to have this connection?
Right.
And like in that sense, like depressive connection, that could be literally because like, oh, I feel lonely. I want to not feel this loneliness for a way that I know that this is quickly. And that can even happen within couples, because I feel like just because you're in a relationship, everyone's in relationships. Like you're in a relationship with your friends and like, yes, as well. Especially like if you look at that as literally being another entity, like I feel like that kind of shows you like, oh, like you really have to date yourself as well.
Right.
But I feel like when people get too stuck just on that being the source of it, when there are moments when you kind of like have to connect in other ways, it kind of makes them feel like, oh, like we don't like each other as much anymore. Oh, like you're not as attracted to me anymore. Like you're, again, like the word attraction, that doesn't just mean like sexual attraction. It could just be like, oh, like me wanting to relate to you and go back to you and express to you. And I feel like when it does kind of die in a sense, it just shows you again like how deeply rooted your connection is, or like how pure your connection is.
Right. Okay, well that's all I have for you. Is there anything else that you'd like to say before you leave? Any advice that you might want to give?
I just want to say, be aware of your sexual energy and don't be afraid to conserve it and put it into the totality of your life.
Right. And you talked about some books earlier. Do you remember the names? Could you possibly give those?
It's an energy healing in massage work. I don't know if that's the exact title, but I feel like if you look up those words, it might pop up. But it's a book by like a person with a PhD.
Okay.
Helps.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for being on my show. You were great and amazing, and we're gonna definitely continue our conversation off air because I'm still super interested. And thank you guys so much for watching my show. We'll be back next week with my friend Scratch. He's an artist, so we'll be talking about his art and things along those lines. So thanks so much for watching. This is the Weekly Read, and we'll be back next week.